tyranny leading the nation, and in response, plotting goes on for a coup. Are we watching the news? Not at all. This is a Shakespeare play that reminds us that those that ignore history are doomed to repeat it. The play, Julius Caesar, and the movie from 1953. So, Will, what do you think? What do you think? An amazing adaptation, I think. What do you think?
Well, this is certainly a classic, and MGM says it on their own poster. An acclaimed production.
Then it must be true.
It must be true if that was in the press packet that they put out before the film was even seen. No, it is rightfully acclaimed. They were jumping the gun a little bit in 1953, but it is a good movie. It is a classic movie. One could argue this is a great movie. And
yes.
I have issues with some of the costuming choices, which we were briefly bandying about right before we started recording. But overall, I like it. Hashtag, it's pretty great.
Well, it has been shown in schools possibly as much as any other Shakespeare movie adaptation in history. I would say maybe 68's Romeo and Juliet as much.
The Zeffirelli, I would argue, is probably seen more often, but...
Well, but it also has some nudity in Zeffirelli, so I kind of wonder...
Underage, too, and that's a bit,
yeah.
awkward.
Yeah. Awkward. So, I don't know. I think that this one certainly has been shown a lot, so I think it's arguable. But yeah, Julius Caesar, it's a pretty straight adaptation. I mean, they certainly cut some things, but...
Oh, yeah, I mean, running time, etc.
Yes, and everything, but it's a pretty accurate adaptation.
And lavish, too. Lavish.
Very. Oh, well, they took the sets from Quo Vadis. They had them shipped from Italy to Hollywood, reassembled, and, well, not all of them, but a few of key ones that really helped out and saved a lot on production costs.
Weren't some of the same sets used in, the Gladiator one? Spartacus.
Oh, Spartacus?
Spartacus.
Oh, that was much later. They might have used a few.
Spartacus was later than us? All right, yeah.
Oh, yeah, much later.
Because I thought I recognized some. But also, yes, Ben-Hur. That's right.
Yeah, 1959. I mean, I don't think so. They might have used
just a lot
small,
of
like
reusing
statues
this
or something
one.
like that.
Okay.
They might have used a little bit, but it wasn't much. This one, they like to say that this movie they filmed in black and white intentionally because they wanted that newsreel look. Personally, I think that's a nice thing to say for the press. I don't believe it at all. I think they're pretty much just making excuses because filming in black and white is a lot cheaper back then. Huge difference. And they were stealing a lot of the sets from Quo Vadis. Let's just be honest. And the color on Quo Vadis was so epic. You know, even though there were a lot of the same sets, it's hard to tell because it was in black and white. And I think they were trying to save money and hide the fact that they were using other sets. That's my guess on it. And they liked the whole newsreel thing for the press. I think that was just their little...
Yeah, but if you're going to do the newsreel thing, you have to kind of go into it whole hog. And
yeah, they did not. It's just black and white.
Exactly.
It did not feel like a newsreel to me at all. I don't get that. I mean, I know that this was still not that long after World War II, and everybody was used to those newsreels that were constantly in theaters, week to week. It was like the news for us. We had to check it out, checking your email every day. That's what it felt like. It was an obsession. So I still get the idea, but that was not what it was. No. Now, it's directed by Joseph L. Mankiewicz, who Mankiewicz, very famous movie name. He's the younger brother of Herman J. Mankiewicz, who, of Citizen Kane fame. But Joseph L. Mankiewicz, he's responsible for movies like The Ghost and Mrs. Muir of 1947, which one of my favorites. I like that film. And Cleopatra from 1963, again, where he directs a Julius Caesar.
Would have been grand if it was a lot of the same cast.
Yes, I think so. Cleopatra, well, that was a little... That went off the rails. It almost bankrupted the studio.
Oh, yeah. They nearly... I think we should cover that one at some point because a lot of Antony and Cleopatra is actually in it. So,
Well, since it was directed by somebody that directed this Shakespeare play here, I think it's not too much of a leap to do that.
no, not at all.
Because certainly it borrowed some from the play.
Yeah.
I think that's...
It's not a direct adaptation, but it is close.
Yes,
It's
I
a
think
close
it's on the
cousin.
cusp.
It's a close cousin.
Yes,
So we'll
yes,
have to
yes,
talk
I think
about
it's
that.
fair.
But let's talk about this one. John Houseman producing
Yes.
this. Theatrical great John Houseman.
Yeah, I was gonna wonder if you if you were familiar with him as an actor or as a director, because
of course.
he's an interesting fellow. Most of the time these days, people are used to actors becoming directors. You know, they act for a while, they get famous, and then they put in their contract, I want a chance to direct. And
Yes.
they get in there, and next thing you know, they're directors too. This guy reversed the process. He started out as a director. Such films as what? The Black Dahlia from 1946, and The Bad and the Beautiful from 1952. Speaking of Spartacus and Kirk Douglas, he was in that. Executive Suite from 1954, and again, Kirk Douglas, Lust for Life, 1956. I mean, some, Lust for Life,
Your
of course, the
movie-
movie about Van Gogh.
Your movie knowledge is encyclopedic and also slightly scary.
Yeah, right. I can't argue that, because I love movies and I watched way too much of them as a kid.
You remind me of Pierce Brosnan in Remington Steele.
Remington Steele.
Yeah, just
One of the reasons I love Remington Steele as a TV show is because of Pierce Brosnan making all the movie references.
and
So
this
I can relate
actually
to that.
is one of them, because a gift he received from Laura. This is a tangent. Holy cow! We are going to get in trouble with our producers. But a gift he received from Laura, played by the amazing Stephanie Zimbalist in Remington Steele, was the VHS at the time MGM Classic Film Library, and he also name drops this film at some point in the series.
Oh yes,
And
yes.
and it was one of the situations where it had nothing to do with the case, but he thought it did.
No.
And it was just like,
No, yeah.
yeah, sure, why not?
Well, life is a bunch of. I mean, you can use movie references as an analogy to life. I mean, it's just. Yeah. I mean, there's so much to learn from movies. Just like in 3 Days of the Condor, where you had it was a movie about a guy who read everything for the CIA. So when an actual spy thing happens to him, he's able to manage it and survive because of his encyclopedic knowledge. So, and guess what? John Houseman also starred in 3 Days of the Condor as an actor.
It all
See how I
comes
brought that
back.
together?
There we go.
I brought it
Well
together.
done.
Yeah,
We're
bringing
back-
it right on.
And now we're back to
but-
Julius Caesar.
Yeah, and you might remember him from The Paper Chase, but most people would probably remember John Houseman these days from the movie Scrooged, where he played himself reading A Christmas Carol in the TV show in the movie. So that was he's an old fellow with a very distinctive voice, and that's, I think, how he made a name for himself later in his career as an actor.
Absolutely brilliant artist, let's call him, because he in filmmaking is a triple threat: actor, director, and producing. So he's just having him involved in this, I think, lent it credence, it lent it gravitas, because this is not an Olivier Shakespearean production, but having Houseman involved gave it a level nearly as high as what Olivier's involvement might have.
Oh, totally. I actually, what did you think of the cast and the acting? Let's talk about that real quick, because
you have John Gielgud as Cassius. Come on.
And this is John Gielgud before he was made Sir John Gielgud.
Yeah.
I mean, classic Gielgud.
You have Gielgud as Cassius, playing it at points nearly as arch as you can be. And that is the way, in my heart of hearts, to play Cassius. You need to basically, as soon as anybody else walks off the stage, be like, yes, Mr. Bond, I absolutely agree. I mean, I was expecting a cat to come out at any moment. And this is a movie I did see in high school, so, I can't argue that this is the most seen or less seen than Romeo and Juliet, because I did see it. But you're expecting that, because he's just like, I am your villain. And then he immediately turns around, hello, I'm charisma itself. And just so good. Brando, holy smokes, Brando blew me away. And
he
I
shocked
know,
everybody.
And I know how good he is.
Yes. Yes.
But it's arguable that he steals the film, even though he is the main character. It is completely arguable for that. Your three mains are Brutus, Cassius, and Antony. And one of your threes shouldn't steal the picture, but he does. And it's not like he's upstaging anybody. It's just he's that magnetic of a performer. And I was expecting him to go full-on Streetcar Named Desire with this. I mean, he goes shirtless after all. Bad choice.
It's true.
I should say, weird choice. But he sells it so much. Brutus is an honorable man. And you're not hearing any of the Brandoisms in it. You're not You're not hearing any of this. None of that. Yeah. It's straight up phenomenal actor who's in it acting. And all I can say is, damn.
Yeah, fair. I can't argue that. And James Mason is Brutus, too. I mean, it's classic, very talented actor.
I think this is the only thing I've seen younger James Mason in. Because everything else I'm familiar with, he's an old man already. Or at least
True. I mean,
playing
you
an
probably...
old man.
Yeah, you're right. Because even in the following year in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, where he played Captain Nemo for Disney.
That was the following year?
Yeah. And he played so much older. He played an old Captain Nemo, right?
He was.
Yeah.
I never would have... If I...
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, because just going off the top of my head, I would have said, oh yeah, it's obviously the late 60s. For how old he is in that movie.
But he had that rich voice that had that elderly kind of wisdom to it that I don't blame him for doing it. It kind of worked for him, and he got to be a lot of good films.
He got to be old for 40 years. It was fine.
Yes. Well, I mean, he didn't play too old when he played Rommel a couple of times in The Desert Fox and another movie called The Desert Rats, which, I mean, you play the same character twice, but and a few years apart. But no, I mean, so he's a little young then, but I mean, North by Northwest, The Blue Max, Georgie Girl, and of course, the infamous Lolita. But definitely a very amazing character. And then Louis Calhern as Julius Caesar.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an actor who, I mean, you remember him from the Marx Brothers with Duck Soup. And then
that's what I knew him from. Okay.
Yes, right? And then I mentioned Executive Suite earlier from Houseman. He was in that too. So it kind of, I mean, that carried around. He liked him as an actor, obviously. Oh, and Edmund O'Brien as Casca.
Oh, no, just...
I mean...
Very...
amazing.
Yeah.
Now, most people would not remember Edmund O'Brien. My favorite role for Edmund O'Brien has to be The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance.
Oh, terrific movie.
Yeah, he played the he played the founder, owner, operator, and editor of the Shinbone Star, the newspaper there, and he also liked to say, "And I sweep up the place." But Dutton Peabody was his name. But yeah, he stole a lot of scenes in there, in scenes with John Wayne, with Jimmy Stewart, with Lee Marvin. And these are all three separate actors, and being able to steal scenes from all three of them, I mean, shows that he is an amazing actor.
Yeah.
And I think he did a very good job here too.
And Caesar is not a great role. Everyone, if they don't know the play, Julius is like, oh, I want to be Caesar. And it's just like, no, you don't.
Yeah, it's kind of like playing Hitler. You're kind of out at the bunker scene.
Yeah,
I mean, you know you're only going to be in there half the film.
Yeah, but also, no thank you.
Right?
I'm good. I'll play Cassius, sure, but no. Let us not play Charlie Chaplin's weird alter ego. No.
Right?
I was so impressed with how much humanity he brought to the part of Caesar. And you're out as of 40 minutes in, and just he made it for a little while his movie. And it was great. And then Antony just picks up the ball and runs with it. And it's Antony's story then until it's not. And it's one of the great things about this show, because everyone is in it for the power. It's not just we have to take out the dictator, because Caesar was historically the dictator of Rome. He was dictator for life at this point. Cassius is not acting altruistically. Brutus is putting the veneer of altruism on his actions. But again, he wants power and acclaim, because that was the Roman system. Very little was ever done for the people. The veneer of for the people was put on a lot of politicians' actions in the final 2 centuries of the Republic, because that's what got you the votes. That's what got you in power, and then you would just stay there. If anyone was actually acting for the benefit and the glory of Rome, arguably it was Caesar, because Caesar wanted to make reforms and felt that the only way he could do it was through having the dictatorial powers, which, again, if you are not familiar with the history of Rome, it was an appointed position in their Republican government. Terms would be 6 months and sometimes extended to a year. Going beyond that was unheard of until the generation right before this of Marius and Sulla. They broke the Republican system of Rome and would just go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with civil wars that were constant. So Caesar coming into power is after a period of about 20 years of civil war. Rome has now been at peace for 20-ish years. All right, we're good. We got all of that out of our system. Caesar claims power, and Rome goes back to civil war. And it's against another great hero who was, not in this film, because that's not part of the story, Pompey. But they're all at Pompey's theater, and that's where Caesar gets killed. Spoilers, by the way. It happened 2,100 years ago. Get over it. So that is the historical context. Everyone is in it for power. There is no West Wing, let's work with the other side here. There is no let us do the best possible job we can. It is power. And if you happen to do a good thing along the way, that's nice. But making Rome glorious was for power. It was to raise up your own status, to raise up your own stature, to raise up your family's name. And everyone wanted Rome to be glorious in an abstract sense, of course.
Sure.
But it was your personal ego, your personal family's glory driving that train.
It's okay for Rome to be powerful and have a lot of glory, as long as you are the reason why. So it raised your glory too.
And which is why you see so many family names cross centuries. Brutus's family name crosses centuries. Caesar's family name, Julius. Julius is the family name, not Caesar. Caesar was a cognomen added on. That crosses centuries. Gracchi crosses centuries. The Claudii, Claudius, crosses centuries. And these are families who are in power from near the beginning and stay in power until near the end. And Rome had staying power partly because of that. It was, well, I need to maintain power if only to keep civilization going. And some people genuinely believed in it. Enough people believed in it. They believed in the glory that was Rome. But that glory of Rome meant you had to have glory too.
Well, a nice, happy, depressing view of history there, but
and you're welcome.
Not inaccurate. Not inaccurate. Well, I wanted to ask what you thought of the female characters in here, Calpurnia and Portia.
Deborah Kerr was amazing. I think she would have been better used as Calpurnia, actually.
I agree.
But that being said, who is it? I have it written down. Greer Garson.
Greer Garson
acquits herself admirably in the role. Mm-hmm. I just think Deborah Kerr would have been better. Swap.
Yeah, I thought my perspective was that Deborah Kerr looked at the role of Portia, saw what it was, and said, okay, I'm going to play it how it is. I'm not going to It's not a phenomenal role. I'm just going to do it and do a good job.
Yes.
Greer Garson it came across to me, Greer Garson looked at Calpurnia and said, no, this needs to be more about me, and went a little over the top with it.
Yes.
To try to steal a scene, and it comes across that way. So I don't think she was bad.
To be fair, that's often how it's done, because you get so little stage time with that part, or screen time in this case.
Yeah.
It's, hello, I'm Wackadoo. Okay, sure.
And Greer Garson, I mean, an A-list actor from an Oscar winner who had made a big name for herself in the 40s. So
she was an Oscar winner.
Yeah, Mrs. Miniver.
Ah, very nice.
1942. And Deborah Kerr.
Look at you go, Remington Steele.
Deborah Kerr, of course, had been in Quo Vadis a couple of years before this.
Yes.
So, in a humorous way, she was in Italy on these sets, and then a couple of years later, she's in Hollywood on some of the same sets. But in Quo Vadis, she was the female lead. So, yeah, I mean, it was really weird. It almost seemed like these actresses were just given smaller roles than they really deserved. I don't know. Well, I was going to ask you if you thought that these roles were pretty not really great female parts in general for this.
They're not grand. They can be good showcase parts.
Okay,
Calpurnia can be a really good showcase part. Portia, if you have the right performer in it, can be a good showcase part. But there's not a lot of stage time. If you're going to do it, you have to really pull a Queen Margaret with it to go into another of the Shakespeare series. Queen Margaret has some of the most stage time of any character in all of Shakespeare, but it's over 4 separate plays. She's in a brief scene in Henry VI Part 1, a whole lot of Henry VI Part 2. She carries Henry VI Part 3, and then she is insanely memorable in, I think, 2 scenes in Richard III. It's arguable that story, the story of the Wars of the Roses, is her story. Now, she's an amazing character. She is not in this. You usually have a heavyweight actress who can come in and just let everything crumble at her feet. Judi Dench in the day would have been amazing as Queen Margaret. I don't know if she actually ever played it. I would be willing to bet that she did. Now, Calpurnia is a part that feels juicy because, no, my husband, do not go. The heavens themselves blaze forth the death of princes. That is a fun line. It's a fun monologue. But are you going to go huge with it, or are you going to try to play it subtle? I would say if Deborah Kerr were in that part, she would have gone with subtlety on it. She would have made it a quiet scene. And it wasn't, but it's never a quiet scene. It's always, let's be extra because we have a grand total of 7 minutes of stage time between us. And so it's like, all right, go. Have fun. There are effectively no women in the show. It is very much the boys' game for this piece, which is in direct contrast to Antony and Cleopatra, where Cleopatra is the main part of that show.
Very true.
And so I think we should look at that. What is it, 63 that they make that film?
Yes.
Yeah, we should look at that film later and compare and contrast of just say, let's go. Also, it's Elizabeth Taylor, and you're not gonna sideline Elizabeth Taylor in that.
No, you're not.
But this is a phenomenal piece. Deborah Kerr is, I would say, a discovery, except she'd already been working for quite a while.
Yes. I mean, most people would know her from a few years after this when she did The King and I with Yul Brynner.
Ah, yeah.
Classic.
She's so good.
Yes, very good. Very good actress.
Mrs. Leonidas. So the women aren't written great in this because they're not really in it that much. They serve to further the plot, and that's it.
But I mean, there's so many great actors in here. I think they figured getting some unknown actors in these roles, not a good plan. So they got some, everybody, I mean, you recognize everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, all the main actors, you recognize them at that time. At that time, you recognize all of them. I mean, maybe a little bonus for us in hindsight for the nerds out there is Alan Napier playing Cicero, who would later go on to play Alfred in the Batman TV show.
Oh, that's right, he did.
Right? And that's, to a lot of us, that he was like the first Alfred that we really associate Batman
Well, he was the
with.
first Alfred. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
After that, you get Michael Gough back in the 80s and 90s.
Right?
And
So,
Michael
yeah,
Gough
yeah.
was good because he was in 4 of them.
Oh, sure. Oh,
He was in more
definitely.
Batman movies than anybody who played Batman.
Which, considering how they kept switching directors and actors back then, that's not saying much. But yeah. But no, this was just a really good film. Now, I do want to throw in a little bit about the music composition.
All right, please do.
Niklas Raza, who probably a lot of you are not familiar with, if not all of you are not familiar with, and you should be, because he had, wait for it, 17 Oscar nominations.
Oh. The John
Yes, somebody
Williams
you've
of his
never heard
day.
of. Niklas Raza. Yeah, 17 Oscar nominations, 3 wins for Spellbound, 1945, Alfred Hitchcock film, which is, a bit underrated. One of my, actually, that is my favorite Alfred Hitchcock film, believe it or not. All about psychology. Here's a little tip. Watch it. The dream sequences were designed by Salvador Dali.
Oh, sounds fun.
Spellbound. So
Well-
yeah, check that out.
well-
But yeah, Spellbound, and also A Double Life, and again, 1959, Ben-Hur. So that
Such a
Ben-Hur,
great
that
movie.
awesome music,
Such a great
Niklas
movie.
Raza. So yeah, definitely a composer you should pay attention to, and he did a good job here. I won't say this is his best music work, but it was certainly good music. Yeah, I have to say, I kind of appreciated the black and white aspect of it. It made it feel old to me. I think that made it work better at schools. I think people took it seriously as like, this is old Rome when they saw it. I mean, that's how I was in school when I first saw it.
This is black and white Rome before Augustus comes in and colorizes everything.
Right. Before the happy time, yes. From a kid's perspective, anyway. But yeah, I mean, I just think it kind of, I artistically, I don't know how much of it was budget and how much of it was intent, but it kind of worked for me. I liked it. I liked the approach overall. The acting was just stellar. John Gielgud helped Marlon Brando with his diction, which, let's be honest, he probably needed. He had a reputation of being a mumbler, and
Yeah.
boy, did it work.
But
He was so
that
good.
Friends, Romans, countrymen,
Yes.
lend me your ears. He
Yes.
has you hanging on every word, every syllable. And at points, he pulls it out to every syllable.
You're right.
Take one of his Brutus is an honest man bits. Brutus is an honest man is said, I think, 5 times in the speech. Brutus is an honest man. And he hits every part of that. And you are hanging on it. It is no wonder that the people of Rome say, yeah, you know what? Let's stop burning things right now. Death to Brutus and Cassius. Let's go.
Yeah,
Let's do this.
You buy it. You follow it. You're just the people. You could see the people swayed. I mean, you yourself were swayed. It was interesting to watch the arguments shift and the way he played that. Yeah, it's an interesting lesson in politics because you look at it and you're kind of like, oh my gosh, that could actually happen, and it has.
I mean, and it has a correlation in show business. So, 47 years after this, we get the movie Gladiator. And,
Oh, right.
and Proximo says to our hero Maximus, win the crowd and you win your freedom. So in this
Exactly.
case, win the crowd and you win Rome.
So I have to say, I mean, with all of this, yes, I was entertained.
Ah, well done. Well done. And as you can tell, we really like this if you are a familiar recurrent watcher of this program, because the movies we really like, we only talk about them a little bit and then usually go off on other tangents. Andrew is giving us an entire film history, a filmography of everyone involved with this production, but he's just like, oh yeah, by the way, that was good. But let me tell you about this Oscar winner over here. It's just so you can tell we like this picture.
The movie did well financially.
Good, it should have.
It made about $4 million on box office.
It was MGM's acclaimed production. It says it right on the poster.
Yes. It made some decent money, so that was good. Certainly, I don't know if it was better than people thought, but they were happy about it. And of course, John Houseman had a great quote a while ago where he said that this has been shown again in movie houses, in schools, for so many years that it has probably made more money than any other film I've ever been involved with.
Well, at the time, it made back twice its budget, so that's a good thing.
Yes, but since then, it made a lot more.
Oh, absolutely, on home video.
And so that's great. And, that's what art is. Art, if it endures and it speaks to people decade after decade after decade, then you will make money. And that's why artists tend to not see great money in their lifetime, because it all comes after they die. Let's just be honest. It's later.
There you go. But just as art is enduring, this movie is 68 years old at the time that we are recording this in 2021. Yes. And we're still talking about it just as we are talking about the works of Shakespeare 400 years later.
Yes.
So in the 24th century, will we still be talking about this production of Julius Caesar? I'm willing to bet we would be. Let's fingers crossed on the hopes for that. Andrew, overall, what are your thoughts and feelings for this production?
Honestly, I could nitpick and say, oh, this could have been done a little better, or that might have been nice, or, maybe it would have been cool in color to see that. But they had a vision of what it was, and they did a great job with it. Everybody involved did a great job with it. There was enough surprises of brilliance to make this a classic, and it is a classic. I have to give it. The original first Toga Party Award.
Oh.
Because, they in the Senate chambers, they had the first Toga Party, let's be honest.
Oh, man.
I went there. I know.
The bodies hit the floor on that one.
Right?
I am going to, on this, because if for nothing else, that Antony speech, I have to give this the full et tu brute. The full.
Oh.
I have lent them my ears, and it is a good thing. So I highly recommend. It looks like Andrew does too. Friends, we want you to go home and watch it. And since you're probably already home watching this, just turn it on next. But if you've enjoyed this show half as much as we enjoy doing it, then we obviously enjoy it twice as much as you do. And that's called maths. And thus, whatever you feel the show is worth, a 1, a 5, a 10, for a 50, Andrew and I will come and restage Rome's first Toga Party for you in your front garden. Throw it into our hat. And by hat, I mean become a Patreon of the arts at patreon.com/lifesaffair. You will get access to us. You will support the creation of good, or at least this show. I can't say it's good. I hope it's good. You know what? I'm cutting that out right there. This line never happened. But you're gonna support us in making what we do, and we appreciate that. And follow us on all the things on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Go and click that like and subscribe. And if you want to follow me, your friendly neighborhood Shakespeare, you can do it on facebook.com/Shakespeare Approves, instagram.com/Shakespeare.approves, YouTube, Shakespeare Approves, Twitter, Shakes Approves. I'm even on TikTok, Shakespeare.approves. I am not flossing on TikTok because that is so very 2 years ago, but I might anyway. Who knows? Andrew, where can the people find you?
You can find me at facebook.com/The Irish Bard, patreon.com/Irish Bard, on my website, theirishbard.com, and you can buy some of my music at theirishbard.bandcamp.com.
Friends, thank you so very much for spending part of your day with us. Until next time, remember, the evil that men do lives long after them, but the good is often interred with their bones. that's a really dark way to end this show. So we'll just simply say toga, 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 toga.